Hey everybody, welcome to another Rackspace office hours from Rackspace, the #1 managed cloud company. My name is Alan Bush and I'm here with my co-host Drew Cox.
Hello, hello.
Hey, and we are going to be talking a little bit about digital transformation. And when we want to talk about digital transformation, there's one guy in the company that we definitely want to talk to, and that is Mike Bainbridge. And he is joining us from inside of this monitor, direct from London, England, where he's sticking around after hours to chat with us. Hey, Mike, how you doing?
Hey, I'm great. Thanks, Alan. And thanks for having me on the show. I'm a big fan of the podcast. So yeah, great to be on.
Hey, well, thank you very much. We're big fans of yours as well, and this is an intersection that needed to happen. So we're glad to have you on, and we really want to jump in and talk about digital transformation, which I know is a topic that's on the minds of a lot of our customers. A lot of folks are really thinking about that, and you've been thinking about it a lot too, Mike. So why don't you go ahead and just introduce yourself? Tell us how long you've been a Racker, what type of things you're doing here at Rackspace, and we can jump in from there.
Great. I've been with Rackspace for about 2.5 years now. Initially, I joined as a specialist architect for e-commerce and high transactional websites. So I was designing infrastructure for our most demanding customers, typically the ones who need a site that scales well for huge traffic around Black Friday and is really business dependent. And then I moved into the role of Chief Digital Technologist about 18 months ago. And it's really to help our customers understand that digital environment and digital transformation. So it really includes an overview of how technology is changing. We run digital maturity workshops with our customers to help them get an idea of how they can transform their business to become more efficient. The other part of that role as well is thought leadership. So I speak at events and conferences, and I've done a number of executive briefings recently too, all on behalf of Rackspace. And I engage with our research partners, in conjunction with marketing efforts. So when we're looking to run white papers and those sort of things, I do those and contribute to blogs. So that's kind of what my remit is. I'm really lucky. Rackspace is a great place to do this. We have so many customers, and it's helping them be more effective and more efficient online, which is, I guess, what we're in business for.
Absolutely. Everybody's, I think now, especially being this window after that heavy Black Friday, Cyber Monday, holiday season of shopping, where people have been able to kind of see and assess. They may have obsessed already. Now they can assess kind of how they did, what that looked like for them in 2016, where they've done well, where they can improve. And January seems to be when most companies look at what's the next step. Where do we go from here? How do we become more mature in the way we approach our business? And so this is an ideal time to take a moment and look at what digital maturity looks like, how the market is maturing, and how customers of ours and potential customers out there can look at their approach and improve that incrementally towards their specific goals. So I think this is a perfect time. What did you see over this last few months that have been big themes and big pieces of that conversation?
Well, when we look at sort of from my background, those high transactional sites and sites you have the build up to the seasonal period, that Black Friday and Christmas and those kind of holidays, I think. For the first time this year, really, it was no surprise. I remember back in 2012 when the first big online rushes were starting, people were panicking and, sites were crashing all over the place. But I think we're at a situation now where particularly e-commerce brands, particularly those pure plays, who rely on their website as their only gateway to their customers, they're ready for it now. And then so in terms of transforming their business, and this term digital transformation gets used quite a lot. Sometimes it gets a bit lost in the buzzwords a bit, but it's really about looking at other aspects of business, not just the technology, not just the infrastructure. And you know what, I believe it's an amazing time now. We're right on the crest of this wave of change that's really being driven by technology. And I read a really cool stat the other week. It used to take Fortune 500 companies 20 years to get to a $1 billion valuation, and now it only takes 4 years. And that's after you adjust for currency fluctuation. So, you know, these hyper growth businesses and super cool startups that we hear about are becoming a real threat to you know, traditional industries, traditional companies, and everyone wants to learn, everyone wants to understand how they do it. And yeah, I think this umbrella of digital is really what that's all about.
Yeah, I think you see specifically the popular person or group that's brought up is Uber, that really traditional entrenched business like a taxi service that's been around for most of the time that automobiles have been used, all of a sudden gets upended by this upstart business that's been valuated incredibly high and come out of seemingly nowhere in a very short period of time. That kind of reality really reframes a lot of existing businesses' approach to what they're doing digitally and with their web presences, and how they're going about their business. When you can have a company in that 4 years go from no one knows about them to a huge disruptor and destabilizer of a market, it really requires those currently established businesses to approach things in a new way. And that can be difficult when you look at how many tools there are out there and what a daunting task that might be to overhaul an approach. So with technology growing as quickly as it is, that becomes a little bit of a headache, and it's useful to have places where you can go and get distilled knowledge and a clear path forward, regardless of kind of your business segment.
Yeah, and you know, the great thing about this this transformation we're going through, and you know, you hit the nail right on the head there, Drew, when you said companies have to change. The reason Uber's become so successful, and you know, of course, technology played a big part. If you didn't carry a smartphone around, the cab wouldn't know where you were. You wouldn't be able to hail it. You know, it's a GPS-connected network device that you carry around with you. We didn't have those 15 years ago. You know, the iPhone's 10 years old this year. So, you know, that gives you an idea of the speed of the change. But the one thing for me that Uber did, and sometimes people forget, is the reason they became so successful is they took a proposition that was being presented to customers by taxi firms, and they improved it in multiple ways. So if you think of you know, the traditional way of getting a taxi, you know, imagine the scenario: you're at a friend's house one evening, you've had a few beers, you need to get home, you're not going to drive, so you want to get a cab. You either have to go out onto the street and try and hail one, and that, you know, can be a bit hit or miss depending where you live. You know, it can be impossible for a lot of people. Or you call a cab firm and, you know, they'll say it'll take 20, 30 minutes to come, and, you know, it takes a bit of planning. The first thing Uber did was they made it easier and quicker for people to get a cab. You know, you press the button, you know how long it's going to take. He knows how to get to you. They made that easy. The second thing they did to improve that experience was to take the hassle of payments away. So again, if you think of the traditional model, have I got enough cash on me? I don't know how much the fare is going to be. Does the driver even have a card machine? Can he take card? You know, sometimes that's a bit hit or miss. With Uber, payment seamless. It's done through the app. You emailed the receipt. You know, you have an audit of your journeys. Again, they made the experience so much better. And the third thing that they did for that I think is the real game changer, and often a lot of people don't think about, is they actually improved the customer experience by making it in everyone's interest for that journey to be better. So not only when you get out of the car or when you've had your journey do you get to rate the driver on a 1 to 5 stars. So, you know, you have that reinforcement of how good it is, the social proof of how good that driver is. And, you know, if you fall, I read an article a while ago, if a driver falls below 3.5 stars, then Uber, you know, gets in touch, checks he's doing the right things and tries to, you know, encourage him on how he can make the ride better. But the other thing, the drivers rate you as well. So I don't know if you guys use Uber or if you know this, but you can go in and you can request your rating from the drivers. So the drivers give you a rating. So it's in the driver's interest and in your interest for that journey to become a better experience. Now, whether that's sitting there and saying nothing or not being abusive or all those different things, there's now, you know, a real clear requirement or interest for everyone to have a better experience. And for me, this idea of digital transformation is really about, you know, putting the customer first, taking these customer-centric solutions and changing the world by making it better. You know, and then when you can bring lowering the cost of things and improving the service in that way, it's a recipe for success. And Uber is, of course, the perfect example of this, the one that gets quoted over and over. You know, the ultimate example of a modern digital company, the world's biggest startup. It's a great one.
They've certainly done an incredible job of completely upending the way it's even thought about to be in that transportation industry in that way. So definitely an exciting example. We're actually getting some feedback on Facebook, and so I'm going to take a quick minute to just kind of set. If you have questions, you're watching this live and you'd like to interact, we'd love to hear from you. We've got ways to do that on whatever platform you're.
It's like Juan and Danny have already jumped in and said, "Hey, we'll address your stuff here in just a second, guys."
Yeah, we're going to get to those things, but they've done a great job of pace setting. We've got comments on Facebook. You can do the same through Periscope or YouTube or Google+. And then if you're a second screener and you're using Twitter, feel free to interact with us on Twitter. We've got the hashtag CloudQA that we're monitoring, or you can use any of our handles. But one of the questions Danny shot us was to ask Mike to share what you feel like Rackspace's biggest impact will be when it comes to digital transformation in 2017. And I imagine we'd have gotten to that at some point in our conversation, but Danny, since you asked and we're doing this live, let's not make you wait for it. Yeah. What are you looking at as a trend towards next year broadly, and then what's Rackspace's impact going to be in that space as other companies try to follow the lead of companies like Uber to really transform their business and then their market?
Well, I really think 2017. And by the way, I'm not a huge one for predictions, so this is a rare one.
We had Gates on last week. He covered all.
Yeah, I heard. So he covered most of the bases for me. But 2017, I think, is going to be the year where we see a huge uptake in cloud adoption. I've seen numerous statistics, you know, over the last 18 months or so that says, you know, like 80% of workloads are still on premise, and that big number is I think driven by a lot of traditional businesses who still have computer rooms, you know, co-located data center facilities or their own data centers. I think this is the year when they're going to start moving to cloud. There's been a lot of getting ready, running dev, test, smaller workloads in cloud environments so that they are, I suppose, more comfortable with the technology, so they can build up the skills within their workforce, so they can work with partners to help them migrate and understand what that looks like and adopt, you know, methodologies like DevOps. I think this year we're going to start to see some big companies really putting their infrastructure play into the cloud or into that multi-cloud environment that we hear so much about. When we talk about how Rackspace can help and enable customers become more digitally mature, which is, you know, a term we like to use, become more modern. Well, there are a number of things. Firstly, for me, the foundations of digital success are really built on two things. And again, you can look at the successful companies. You know, we've mentioned Uber, companies like Airbnb, who are seen as these modern entities. Is built on two things. Firstly is cloud technology. So going from startup to $1 billion turnover quickly, rapid scale, they don't do it by investing in IT infrastructure and buying tons of servers and network gear. You just can't scale a company that quickly. So cloud and helping customers scale, you know, this is what we do. We have that expertise at Rackspace, and for me, that's probably the number one thing. How we will help customers go on that digital journey. The other foundation is by using data, by making decisions in much more effective ways. I heard this great term a few years ago, which is kill the hippo. And the hippo stands for the highest paid person's opinion. So no longer do you listen to the guy who says, well, that's how we've always done it, so that's how we're doing it, or that finger in the air, let me take an educated guess as to how we do this. If you've got data, if you've got numbers, you can make the right decisions every time. And you can monitor, you can do split testing, you can take the variance and see which is best. And it's that being able to do quick iterations, do tests in those sort of ways, and deliver that agility into the business. So from an infrastructure perspective, I suppose big high level things. What are those foundations? It's cloud and data. And then when you sort of start to get under the weeds and talk about business process and trying to become more agile, it's helping customers adopt those sort of methodologies that help them deliver on cloud quickly and iterate quickly. So, particularly around DevOps and automation of those platforms. Again, that's something that Rackspace can help with our customers. There are a lot of things that actually we don't do, and sometimes I have to say to customers, we're not going to devise or build a social analytics platform that helps you engage with your customers in a new way. But the great thing is, with over 300,000 customers and a great partner ecosystem, I bet we know someone who's already done it, or I bet we've got a customer who's done something similar to you, and we can pull on that deep experience that we have of our big customer set.
Yeah, absolutely. I think there's huge room to take our customers out of the data centers. They might have a toe in the cloud, but when you're talking about hosting your corporate brochure website versus all of the applications that run to make your business, right? Like that is all largely in corporate data centers and co-location. And we're seeing a lot of customers already, and I think you're right, Mike. I think we're going to see a lot more that are taking those servers, putting them into the cloud, putting them into dedicated data centers that Rackspace can manage, for example. But and then taking their IT staff that have been doing a lot of maintenance on the servers and making sure the servers are up and running, and utilizing them to do that second part of what you just said, which is analyze the data that's coming back out of all of that information that we're gathering, right? So we're seeing a lot of companies that are leaning on their IT staff to help them understand, hey, what's going on? What is happening in all of this data? Help me sift through all of this, and then adding value back to the business that way.
Well, yeah, to analyze and act on the data you have, it can open up opportunities for new business. We're going to go back to Uber to think about this, but you talked about big data being this huge, important piece of being a more efficient and effective organization. When they can do things like surge pricing, that allows them to really control some of the key factors in their business. And that takes big data saying, okay, we've seen this before. We know that this is a time period or an event that if let continue, there's going to be more and more demand. So we can charge a little bit more, which will discourage maybe a few riders so that we can continue to serve them quickly and keep them satisfied, and B, encourage drivers to get out there and increase the workforce that we have executing work against this market. And it also allows them to have that multiplier on their income. It's not something that they could do as easily or effectively and in such a scalpel precise way without big data. It'd be something like, well, we're going to have happy hour rates because imagine that this is a good time. They can be very specific and say, well, because there's a big sporting event at this location, we're going to have surge pricing within a X block radius so that we can encourage drivers to head across town and help out that needed area, and maybe change the mind of a couple of potential customers so that we can make that bridge work until we have that additional set of resources. So it's taking the data you have, making sense of it and understanding what that can mean for your business, and then being able to build features around it. So your IT staff gets to be business strategic instead of operational requirement. And that's a huge differentiator when you're spending all that money to find and keep really bright technical people. To be able to use them in the most optimal way is really going to make a huge difference on what you're able to achieve as a business.
Yeah, absolutely. I couldn't agree more. I think data is probably the big thing. I know it's sometimes seen as the maybe the least sexy thing. Harvard Business Review said data scientist was the coolest job role in 2016. They're typically paid 2.5 to 5 times more than developers with the same experience levels. Being able to understand and analyze data, but not only that, being able to solve business problems with it. Another quote, and I'm killing myself because I can't remember who I heard it from, but someone said, data is cheap, but insights are invaluable, and that's where you really deliver value into your organization.
It feels like that's where the corner is being turned right now. There's been a lot of focus on capturing data and capturing more and more data. It's getting cheaper and cheaper to do so. And so as the giant pools of data that customers are providing to consumers, to businesses, they're capturing all of this, but now they've got to find a way to act on it and taking the right actions and taking well-reasoned next steps based on that data is really kind of where the market has shifted from just capturing it all and having it to understanding what it can mean for you and doing things that generate value beyond just, there's a data lake back there. There's probably a Loch Ness Monster in it too. I don't know. But using it usefully is kind of the shift that I feel like really took root this year. And into 2017.
Right. Well, and actually, it's funny. It's one of the things that our CTO, John Ingates, mentioned as one of his predictions for 2016, right? So it was that thing again. It was, customers or businesses have data, right? They're collecting more and more every day, but who's gonna use it the smartest? And we've identified Uber as one of those unicorns that's doing it really well, but Airbnb is another one, and there's plenty of them that are using that really well. And so yeah, we're definitely seeing that data being used, not just collected.
Right.
So great. I know I've talked now about kind of the foundations that you build this digitally mature business on, but there's another part of this I want to touch on, these sort of 4 pillars of success as well. I think they're fairly widely discussed in most circles, and rather than being technical things, they're more business driven outcomes. So I have a little list here. So the first thing that digitally mature businesses do, or businesses who are successful in this way, is they align to delivering customer outcomes. They really take that that outside-in approach. They put themselves in the customer's shoes and understand what it's like for the customer. And when we were talking about Uber before, I said, how they improved the process of taking a taxi journey in those different ways. And this is the thing that a lot of businesses struggle with. They, rather than thinking about what's going to make our customers' lives better, there's a lot of thoughts around, well, how can we be more successful? How can we make more money? How can we improve profits? These kind of things get considered, and they're not customer focused. They're not customer focused outcomes. And there's a real key here where you can spot businesses that get it and businesses that are still struggling or maybe need some help. And that is the metrics they use on their dashboards or scoreboards to measure success. So if your metrics are aligned to customer outcomes, then it shows that you understand, what is important for the customer. And one of the metrics we use at Rackspace, one of the key ones is Net Promoter Score. Mm-hmm. The NPS, the ultimate question: would you recommend us to a friend or family member? And it really is seen as a shining light of successful businesses who are digital. They take that customer focused approach. There's an ISP in the UK here. It's Virgin Media, so one of Richard Branson's spin-off companies. The whole business from top to bottom is metriced on NPS, and everyone's bonus. So from the CEO right down to the cleaners or the staff who work in the canteen are all metriced on NPS. So everyone's pulling in the same direction. Everyone understands the value of delivering that great customer experience.
That's a big culture piece. That's one of the things that it's hard to shift if you don't have a culture built on it, and it takes that concerted effort of putting it at the forefront, saying the customer outcome is the most important thing, and we're going to find the best way to measure it, and we're going to be sure that it's front and center. A lot of times you'll see this shift in a culture where a new metric comes up or some new goal and target, and it has to continually be reset as the focus. And so I love that we're talking about digital transformation with these other components that are really necessary for digital transformation that may not be maybe on the nose digitally focused, but have that result if done well. So
yeah. And you know what, you kind of take it for granted when at Rackspace, we use NPS all the time, not just with our customers, but internally. So if I'm doing a training session with the sales guys, they will NPS me, and that goes into my feedback to my boss. And that way of measuring things, you take it for granted, but a lot of companies don't use it and aren't aware of it. So there's definitely some education to be done there as well. So the second of the four pillars I have around digitally mature businesses is so you focused on customers. That's number one in the list. Focusing on improving employees, employee collaboration, and I suppose the efficiency of your workforce is the second one. So the classic story, and again, this kind of reflects what we have at Rackspace. You have a great culture, and it's a real cliche to say it, but it's from the top down, so everyone believes it, and it's right from the senior leadership all the way down. So you have a great place to work, good benefits, happy, well-motivated staff provide better customer outcomes and customer experiences. And if you improve collaboration and tools and all those sort of things that you kind of take for granted a lot of the time. I'm sure a lot of us work for companies, and you can book your annual leave through an app or a web browser, or claim expense receipts, or those kind of things, or pick benefits. Not every company has that. A lot of companies, you still have to fill out paper forms, and there's still these cumbersome ways that just make life a little bit harder for everyone. And if you free customers, if you free your employees to be able to do what they do best and make it enjoyable, then that improves the situation for everyone.
Yeah, I think one of the ways that Rackspace really focuses on that is being a strength-based company and looking to maximize the amount of time that individual employees use practicing the things that they are best at and that they deliver the most value on, and building teams that can cover for each other, so that you may have a vast array of talents on that team that you may be really good at one thing and poor at another, but you've got somebody on your team who covers your weakness while you cover theirs with your strength. And in doing so, you end up with that generally better results, because you have people who are working in their sweet spot day in and day out on teams built with that in mind. So not something that everyone does, but something that does seem to be a growing trend, and that Rackspace has been really intentional about setting up. And so that's one of the things that I think of in that vein that has been invaluable to our company in trying to remain on the forefront of a digital world.
Yeah, and particularly as we're in a time now where a lot of us have smartphones with our work email on, or you take work home or do things outside the traditional 9 to 5. People answer emails when they're on vacation and those kind of things. There's work and outside of work, your home life is much more merged than it used to be. It's not going to the factory, doing the job, coming home. So I think to have a great a quality of life associated work, enjoying it, and it not seen to be a chore is a great thing, and that's definitely a change for the better. So being digitally successful isn't just about having a great business, but being great to employees, and I guess making everyone's life better as well. Right, so the third pillar of digital success, and we're nearly there, guys, so bear with me, is to digitally enable or digitally enhance products and services, using technology to improve those offers you have to customers, and maybe looking at addressing customers in a way that they want. So whether that's using mobile technology, apps and services that make it easier for people to consume. I think the great example of this is the Kindle ebook reader that Amazon launched, that completely revolutionized how a lot of people consume, not only consume books, but how they get them delivered to them. To be able to have things wirelessly downloaded and not have to go to a store or get something delivered is a huge change. So technology enabling products and services for people to consume is another thing. And that might be as simple as, if you're a B2B organization, that order form that your customer normally faxes over to you, you have an online portal where they can fill it out, and you can make it easier and make those iterative improvements to make that online experience for them better. And it really ties into that first one as well. Thinking like a customer, what can make a customer's life easier, and then using technology to really smooth things out and make those transactions and engagements as seamless as possible.
Yeah, that's a great way to do it, to kind of, as the old saying goes, eat your own dog food, and try to figure out what's going on and how is this. So think like the customer, think about things through their eyes, through their experience, and figure out what does our average customer go through whenever they engage with our product, whenever they create an order. Are we asking them to find that one fax machine that's still left working in the building, or do we create a digital portal where they can come in and create that order? And by the way, one of the nice things about that is, once you have that digital portal going that shows, that allows your customers to order online, a lot of times those are hooked into some really great back-end inventory solutions and invoicing solutions, and you start to put all of those together, and now your company is able to a lot more effectively run their business. When all of those systems are connected and talking to each other.
Well, your customers get to go to one place to audit
Right.
all of their interactions. You could even go to a point where you're setting up scheduled deliveries, and instead of having to go in and order every time, you're able to see pretty quickly, well, it looks like every 6 weeks we order the same thing. Let's set it up for reoccurring and not have to think about it again. And all of a sudden, that's more valuable to your consumer, and it's automatic money. You can project your future earnings on, well, we've got X number of customers who've got it set up to pay us every X number of days. And so we know how to plan better now because we have that done. So there's trickle down effect of integrating different components, and thinking like your customer becomes incredibly powerful as you think of it as a holistic view, instead of that fax machine's not going to last much longer, and the guy who services it looks like he's about ready to retire. So maybe we should fix that whole thing. You can see value realized by making a change, and then seeing how that change can improve the next thing, and how the overlap really amplifies the impact of the work you're doing.
Yeah, they're all building on each other. And so, we've gone through 3 of them. Let's hear that 4th one.
I was going to say, guys, it's like you set me up for the 4th one, the way you were talking there, and it leads quite nicely in. But the 4th one is by adopting business process improvement. So more agile ways of working, automating business processes that were perhaps manual, and again look at really how the business works and how those workflows plan out. And I've met with a couple of customers who've done this, where they've got all the different teams from their businesses in a room, and they map out what they do and clear processes. And it's amazing how many people or how many companies haven't gone through this exercise. You can imagine the scene, a room with sticky post-it notes all over one wall where everyone's written down what they do, and then you get someone in from purchasing and he's like, oh, hang on a sec, I do the same thing that this guy does, and there's a repeated thing. Or to place an order with a certain supplier, you have to go through 5 different approvals where actually, hang on, these 3 guys always say yes. Why are they doing it? So, understanding the real mechanisms, the behind the scenes things that make your business work, and looking to improve them is that 4th pillar of success. And these are the 4 things that make you a more successful organization, I suppose. And as we go through this, I think having conversations with CIOs and talking about things like digital strategy, and now people are saying, well, actually, digital strategy is not so much a separate thing. This, talking about digital is really business strategy, but digitizing it, or taking technology and, supercharging your business and your overall business strategy by doing it. So we talk about digital now, and it's a thing, because I guess it's still fairly new, but this is really the norm now for businesses who start. I'm sure if you went and talked to startups in Silicon Valley, they wouldn't say, oh yeah, we're a digitally mature organization. That's the default. This is becoming the default now. So everyone has catching up to do.
Well, yeah, it's interesting. You're talking about this transformation. Obviously, there's not a need for a transformation if you were kind of born into this digital age. But there's a lot of companies. You mentioned it earlier, that the highest paid person opinion, right? Like the person that's been around forever and says this is the way that we've always done it, and that's a really tough thing to do. I get into that every once in a while too. Hey, we've always done it this way. But when you have this legacy of the way that you've always done it, you have to really remember, hey, technology is changing so fast. Is there any way that we can eliminate these redundancies? Any way that we can eliminate these processes, merge them, make them more digital and automated? And once you start doing that, then you can really become to that maturity that you're talking about.
Well, there's all sorts of things that just change, and if you continue doing it the way you've always done it, you'll be missing out. Like, I think about my grandmother. She grew up on a farm where they physically grew their food. And then when she had kids, it was at a point where there's grocery stores, and those grocery stores grew bigger. You didn't have to go to like the meat market and the produce market and the grocery store. You could go to one place. And I just sent her an invite to Blue Apron, and now she can stay home, and there's a box of food that shows up at her door with the recipe, everything that she needs, no waste. And these are because the options continue to change. And doing the same thing, putting food on the table, looks incredibly different today, and can look incredibly different today if you choose to. You don't have to grow everything that you eat in your yard and do all the harvesting and the planting and all that stuff, because there's other options. You're welcome to, but the efficiency that you gain by having food delivered to your door, the meal plan already there, and just be able to go execute against it, or even delivery pizza. That's another example of ways that we've completely altered the way we approach a very fundamental part of our life, that staying up to date on the options available allow you to save time, money, effort, energy, all over the place. And business is no different. And being able to see broadly the tools available can really change the way you approach your business. And it is just strategy with an eye towards all of these digital tools and the potential that's there waiting to be unlocked. And so I think there's a lot of examples that you can look at in your life of things that have changed in your lifetime to the better. And business is really no different. And we're here to help enable customers to get fuller advantage of that ecosystem of potential that's out there.
Yeah, Drew, I love that example of your grandma. And for me, you can kind of sum all this up in by looking at it in one simple way. And I've come to this understanding that time is this commodity that you really can't buy any more of. No matter how rich you are, the one thing you can't do is extend. Actually, it's a pretty morbid thought, so bear with me on this one. You can't extend the period of time you're on the planet for. It's not it's not, we're not in RoboCop 2 territory where you can be brain in a jar yet, but you know, that commodity is limited, and people start to see value in being able to save time now. It's not just about it being cheaper. You know, it's sometimes people are willing to pay a bit more to save a bit of time, because then, you know, like your example with the food, they've got more leisure time available to them to do the things that they want to do. And that's, you know, we talk about, you know, how good life is now compared to years ago, and that I think that's the key benefit. I really think that's the key.
Well, yeah, and that's, you're right. I mean, that is one of the things. It's the constant that we measure things against is time, and it is the same for everybody. And it's one of those things that we've always been trying to get more of, right? Is more time. And you know, as new technologies come along, some people will decry them because they, you know, change the way that we, you know, the way that we work together and we do certain things. But at the same time, it allows us to do additional, to additional tasks, to focus on working in different ways. And that's just, you know, that's very powerful. I'd say, you know, I think it's going to be a great force for good to change the way that we are able to spend our free time, which will, I think, become more and more available to us as we, you know, consolidate some of these tasks.
Absolutely. There's a lot of things we can do today with our time that we couldn't do a couple of years ago.
Yeah, absolutely. Take an Uber or whatever it's going to be.
While you're taking Uber. Well, you don't have to drive.
You don't have to drive.
You can take an Uber and
you can work on something.
Take your email and all kinds of other good stuff.
Read a novel, whatever you're doing. So yeah, you can do all types of stuff. So that's great. Well, hey, Mike, while we get ready to wrap it up, let's, you know, I know you're not big on predictions, but how about this? What would you, if somebody came to you and said, hey, Mike, I really want to talk to you about my business, about, you know, getting us ready to go for this digital age. What can we do to become more digitally mature? What are some of like the very first things that you would recommend to this business owner?
So that's a great question. And how I engage our customers and help them, I have this kind of like a 12-question questionnaire that I typically start with that leads into a workshop where we discuss digital maturity. There's so much information online. There are so many great resources to look at where to start. I really recommend the blog that McKinsey write on digital. There's some great resources on there, you know, and particularly for me, and I know we mentioned it, and it does sound like this dreadful business cliche, so I feel awful repeating it, but it's something that's got to come from the top. It's got to have an executive sponsor right at the top of the company who's interested in doing it. When you work in sort of silos in small teams and you try and make change, and you know, you can demonstrate business improvements, that's fine, but you know, to have that mandate from the top of the business to want to change and to try and evolve, that for me would be top of the list. It's got to really come from the sponsorship from the executive. And you know what, this is something we see. So we at Rackspace, we did some research with Forrester at the start of 2016, where we asked a load of senior executives about digital maturity in their businesses. It was so interesting. So the first question on the survey was, is your business digitally mature, and do you have a well-communicated digital strategy for change? And 80% of executives answered yes, they thought they were in a digitally mature business. But being the clever analysts that they are, Forrester went and asked them a bunch of follow-up questions about, you know, how their business is organized, how they measure success, what metrics they use, you know, about their view on customers and how they make change in their business as well. And they plotted it on a grid. They took all these results and they put these the customer responses in different categories. And actually, only about 11% of people who answered were in that what they would call digitally mature organizations or highly successful digital organizations. So sometimes there's this appearance of digital, which is a big red herring. You know, we've got a digital app, we've got you know, an iPhone app or an Android app, or we have a website that customers can use, therefore we're digital. there's a lot more to it than that. And I think with our conversation today, you know, talking about the different pillars and the organization, you know, sometimes those non-technical things, understanding the process and, you know, helping people work better together is really what the whole story is about.
The one thing I would add to that is a bit of a cautionary tale, and the value I think in having someone in senior leadership as a champion of digital maturity. If it's not done, then you will have departments that say, you know, we're moving forward. We're going to adopt Slack, and we're going to adopt these other tools that are going to be really useful for us. And then you likely will have another department that says, we're going to be mature, and they're going to adopt HipChat, and they're going to adopt these other tools that do the same thing. And then you don't have a coherent approach, and you don't get the value of being able to even simple things like economies of scale around licensing, but also being able to integrate these tools well together to get the most value out of them. And so having a champion that's high enough in the ranks to see these different processes getting started will be able to shepherd them in one coherent direction, instead of having all of these little bits and pieces crop up that you then have to correct and consolidate and work through. You can grow from one clear view. That's something that I tend to see a lot when you see a company that says, you know, yes, we are digitally mature, we're moving quickly that direction. You have multiple departments having multiple views on what that looks like, instead of one champion that's giving a clear call towards the real direction of the business.
Yeah, and one of the things that those digital experts all did that we uncovered from the Forrester report was they either set up a center of excellence, or they take a cross-functional approach to their digital change. So people from all different departments. So, you know, it's not just someone from IT, it's not just someone from marketing, but someone from finance to understand, you know, how to make payments work better and invoicing and those sort of things. Someone from operations and build expertise from across those teams that, you know, hopefully helps to eliminate some of those problems that you identified, Drew.
Yeah, that's great advice. Great advice. Well, hey, Mike, we're coming up on the end of the hour here, so we're going to go ahead and wrap it up here. But thank you very much for spending an hour out of your evening in London with us, and we really appreciate that. And again, I mean, you just have such great insights, and it's a great way for us to share these insights in a way that we don't always get to do that. So thank you again for spending this time with us.
It was my pleasure. I can't believe it's gone so quickly. It feels like 10 minutes.
It does. It really
the commodity, the time, it's slipping away from us.
It's what's going on with time there. So we'll definitely have to have you back on again. I mean, you are definitely a fount of knowledge around this topic. So we want to make sure that we have, you know, all of our every opportunity we want to extend to you to come back and join us again. So. We hope that you'll.
Thanks, guys.
Yeah, we definitely
very much
on the table to do this again.
Yeah. So, all right. Well, we'll go ahead and get it wrapped up here. Thank you again, Mike, and thanks for everybody for watching. We do this every week here at about 1 o'clock Central Standard Time. You can find this episode and other episodes at ohpodcast.com. That's where you can go and take a look at some of our back episodes. You can also subscribe to an audio-only podcast if you just want to check us out while you're driving, while you're working out, however you listen to podcasts.
Listen to us at double speed while you're working out.
Yeah, exactly. Because time, you don't have that much.
There's only so much.
There's only so much time. Yeah, so you can do that. And if you're watching in the future, you didn't have a chance to ask us a question live on the air, go ahead and just drop us a line. There's plenty of ways to reach out to us. Just drop us a comment wherever you came across this video, and we'd be happy to answer your question for you down the road. Mike, if someone wants to get in touch with you to do a little bit more consultation on digital transformation, how can they do that?
So I'm on LinkedIn. If you search for Mike Bainbridge, in fact, if you just search for Mike Bainbridge on Google, I think my LinkedIn profile comes up top. And I'm active on social media on Twitter as well. So I'm at DGTL for digital Mike. So DGTL MIKE. So and again, if you search for me, I should be one of those top hits.
Yeah, absolutely. So if you're one of our customers, if you're interested in being one of our customers, Mike might be the one that's helping you out with your digital transformation. And anyway, on that note, I guess we'll go ahead and say thanks for watching, and we'll see everybody next week. Bye, everybody.
Thanks.